Tuesday, August 22nd, and this is Geeknights. Tonight we discuss ludicrously casual role-playing games.
Let's do this. Well, I am the proud winner of a game of Amon-Ray by exactly 1 point.
I tried to get money, but I couldn't. I don't know.
Well, not to imply anything, but Scott was not in second place since Alex is living with us currently, and it was between me and him pretty much.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just something with Amon-Ray, like, I kind of know what to do, but I just can't. I mean, if you really think about it, I was, maybe 12 points behind. It is possible that I could have gotten 4 power cards that would have put me up.
You weren't eligible, however, for any power cards.
I was in the first kingdom. I just didn't get the ones I was eligible for. But, what are you going to do?
Lose.
Yep.
Yeah, that was really the only leader bit I had today. It was kind of a slow day.
It was really slow today. I mean, I don't think I did anything today until the pod. Pretty sad.
Yeah, you didn't really do anything. I came home and you're already sitting in your room doing nothing.
I think I was doing something in the room. I don't remember what.
Yeah, whatever. We have some news at least. Now, this again is somewhat old news, but I think I have to talk about it. And I have to talk about it for the same reason that I occasionally still have to talk about Jack Thompson. In fact, I recently posted on Slashdot to describe the Jack Thompson rule of media, which I now ascribe to.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, when someone like Jack Thompson or Sony is so stupid and they do stupid things in the news all the time, you can't report on them every time they do something stupid anymore because that's just, well, stupid. So what you do is you report on the first stupid thing they do. If they do something else stupid and they keep doing stupid things, you can't talk about it or say anything on the air or write a comment about it unless the thing they just did tops everything else they've done.
Well, occasionally, I mean, someone does one stupid thing in their life. You say, that guy did a stupid thing. Then if they start a cycle of stupidity, after like 3 or 4 things, that's when you stop doing each individual one.
Well, if you want to get more technical, you could say there's this equation and all these factors. There's a number, and if the number is above a threshold, you can talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And the stupidity of the act that would warrant being spoken of would decrease over time the longer it's been. So if Sony didn't do anything stupid for a year and then they did something stupid, it could be a much less stupid thing, and I'd still talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it does get kind of tricky, though, because let's say you have someone like Jack Thompson who just does things that are more and more incredibly stupid.
At this point, Jack
everything
Thompson
is stupider than
would
the
have
last.
to kill a child for me to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, but everything, let's say, he just keeps doing stupider and stupider things, right? And you won't report on the mildly stupid things he does. I mean, relative to the, it's like, yeah.
See, with the Jack Thompson rule, if you have invoked it on something, then you can assume that entity or person has been doing constant minor stupid things for the entirety of the time.
Right,
the rule
but what I'm
invoked.
saying is a minor stupid thing for Jack Thompson, compared to Jack Thompson's other stupid acts, and then you take that same minorly stupid act on the Jack Thompson scale and compare it to a stupid act of some other person, and that other person might have done only one stupid thing that was basically nothing compared to the average stupidity of Jack Thompson. So do you not report on the other person's...
No, it only applies to one entity, because once someone...
But now you're not reporting on these incredibly stupid things.
No, it doesn't matter, because once you've invoked the Jack Thompson rule, you're basically telling the world, the person I am no longer talking about is so stupid, you could probably just make up a stupid story every day, and it's probably true, or at least true in magnitude. That is the Jack Thompson rule, and Sony has once again allowed me to make fun of the PS3 launch.
Oh my God.
By admitting a few days ago to GameSpot that they have not, in fact, started production of the PS3.
Wow.
They have not yet begun to start making PlayStation 3s. It's the end of August. They said...
Well, you know what? No, it's cool because, look, it's going to come out in November, right?
All right. They said they're going to have 2 million units.
I don't think they're going to have 2 million units. I think they're going to have the exact same number of units as people demand, which is very few.
See, now, a lot of people were trying to justify this, saying that, it's just-in-time manufacturing, and this is planned from the start. And there are a lot of reasons why I'm dubious of this claim. And all I'd really like to say is that I really think Sony fucked something up and they don't know what to do.
Sony's just fucking everything up. Is there an intelligent person at that company at all, anywhere?
The people who design Sony hardware tend to be pretty smart because a lot of Sony hardware would be really cool if they didn't cripple it with DRM.
Yeah, I guess maybe.
Except for this recording bit, which was cool, except one, it had DRM, and then two, Adam dropped it and it immediately broke. Immediately.
Yeah, well, you know what I heard? I heard that...
Sony can't have an orgasm unless it kills a dog.
Well, no, I heard that Nintendo's making like hojillion Wiis. And they're already making Wiis right now. Lots of them. And we're gonna have more Wiis than we know what to do with. You're gonna be able to just go to the store and get one without worry.
It'll be like that guy on Fark who had 2 Wiis.
Lol.
I don't think I like this trend of you saying lol in a non-ironic way when you're not typing it.
Speaking of Wiis, I got a Wii news.
A Wii news?
Nintendo hired this company. I forget the name of the company.
Wii.
Yep. And the company's job is to throw these exclusive, private, secret parties. And they're Wii parties. And I think the way it works, according to what I've read...
All I can say is that if I were throwing a Wii party, it would probably not be anything like what Nintendo thinks a Wii party is.
Yeah. I think the way it works, based on what I read, is that this company goes around picking people they know are cool. And each of those cool people gets to invite like 30 friends to the Wii party. And then they, get a bus and they bus the people quote, rave style.
Rave style?
Rave style.
What the hell is rave style?
I don't know, but I guess they bus people to raves.
I've seen ravers rent school buses because I once or twice have seen a school bus full of ravers drive by.
Maybe, but they bus people rave style to a secret location where there are Wiis to play and a party going on.
All right. Now, I can see partly why you might want this to be the news because we're kind of cool.
Yeah.
So if any of our listeners out there are, going to one of these Wii parties and have, 20 or so invitations, the front row crew would love to make an appearance.
What's happening is on the internet, people are posting the places and the times, the cities and times of the Wii parties. But of course, no one knows the exact location.
Yeah, that's real. New York City, 8 o'clock.
That's pretty much what they're posting on the net. And, people are trying to go to the Wii parties now. They're not so secret, but I think that was sort of intentional.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's one of those,
it's like,
it's exclusive.
You know there's a secret, but you can't find out all the information
Scott,
to take advantage of it. Ah, ha, ha.
It's a secret to everyone.
Exactly.
Things of the day. Wow, usually you say something after I say that wacky radio things of the day kind of thing.
I tried not to say something this time, and I succeeded.
Yeah, you did. You succeeded in not saying anything.
Thingy,
patang, zoop.
Boink.
All right, now back when we were at RIT and we were sophomores, we watched this video. We might have been juniors, I don't remember, but we were in our apartment, and someone showed us this Counter-Strike video. It was basically a few-minute movie with incredibly high production values. I mean, it was basically the theatrical Counter-Strike. It was really badass. It ended in a crazy knife fight. And I wanted that to be my thing of the day today, except I don't remember what it was called at all. There's no way I have my browsing history from what would be half a decade ago. And I have absolutely no way to find this video. So instead, I found this other Counter-Strike video.
I found it and showed it to you.
All right, what was just cut out there was Scott trying to claim that he showed me this video, when in fact, I found it independently of him.
Well, because I saw it before he did, and then he saw it, and because I had seen it already, and then I thought I showed it to him, but...
So once again, the faulty memory comes up, and you remember something incorrectly.
Whatever.
Yeah. Anyway, I found this other Counter-Strike video while I was looking for that first Counter-Strike video. This video is not nearly as high quality, but it is absolutely hilarious. Just skip the first, 30 seconds of it.
Yeah, at the beginning of the movie, it shows this kid playing Counter-Strike, and he slowly transforms into a counter-terrorist.
Yeah,
But you get the idea pretty much right away, but they spend like a minute or two, and it drags out.
Yeah, way to go, Captain Director. We know that you've learned all these film techniques. You really should have cut that scene into about a quarter of what it was.
Yeah, but as soon as he becomes a counter-terrorist, hilarity ensues. So... just skip ahead until you see guys with guns.
Now, one, this is not at all amusing unless you have played Counter-Strike enough to get all the jokes.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, I was watching it. It was funny, but it was standard, typical high-quality video funny. Until about halfway, maybe 2/3 of the way through, when there are a whole bunch of inside Counter-Strike jokes all in a row about hostages and such. And I lost it.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
It's really good. But if anyone knows anything about the other Counter-Strike video that I just mentioned, the crazy realistic one that ends in the awesome knife fight and the counter-terrorist getting his throat slit, let me know, because not only will that be a thing of the day, but I will give you some sort of non-monetary, non-tangible reward.
Oh, I'm sure that'll bring him out.
Well, the thing is, we haven't made our swag yet. We've already promised swag to a lot of people. So I'm going to hold off on promising more swag until we actually have swag.
All right. So my thing of the day is is stand-up comedy from Japan. Well, it's more like sit-down comedy because the guy isn't actually standing. But this guy's on stage, and he's got a projector there. And he has a Game Boy Color, and he's playing Tetris. Or at least he's pretending to play Tetris. And on the projector, you can see the game of Tetris he's playing. Now, it starts out in level 1, and he drops a piece, and it disappears. He drops another piece, and it disappears.
And, of course, if you've ever played Tetris, which, if you haven't played Tetris, why the hell are you listening to Geeknights?
What the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah, good God. It's like saying I've never seen Star Wars, or...
I've never eaten an apple. Or a banana. That's what it's like.
Well, there was one guy on Fark recently who was insisting, and he was an old man. He was... old man. He was in his 30s.
Mm-hmm.
He was insisting that he had never in his life played any form of video game.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, well, I found it dubious, and I figured he was a troll, and two, I couldn't really care so much.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so, that starts off like that. So then he gets pissed off, and he says some funny things in Japanese, and if I understood Japanese, it'd probably be even more funny.
You know what? Knowing Japanese or not knowing Japanese has almost no impact on finding this hilarious or not finding this hilarious.
Yeah, it's funny if you don't know Japanese, but if you do, I'm sure it's more funny. It's kind of like a booster.
See, I don't know. By the same token, it might be less funny. I mean,
if you find people saying things in Japanese funny, and then yes.
Well, no, I mean, let's say that a good example is there's some songs I like in Japanese. There are a couple songs that I really, really liked, and I thought they were really cool. And one day I read what the lyrics actually meant, and they were the most vapid, asinine crap I'd ever seen. And until I knew what the words were, I had such a greater appreciation for the song.
Yeah, but I think according to some people who do know Japanese, they said the guy was saying funny things.
Yeah, the guy seemed pretty funny.
Anyway, so in level 2, he starts playing. He got pissed off at the game, and he plays level 2. And a horizontal line comes down the screen, lands, and disappears.
Now, it just goes on from there. It's basically stand-up comedy where he's pretty much just playing Tetris funnily.
Yeah, basically he's playing Tetris, but each level is screwed up in some way. And it's
screwed up in a way that would be funny to a gamer.
It would be funny to someone who played Tetris. And what's the greatest part about this is it shows that kind of thing in America is only funny to gamer nerds, the kind of people who make Katamari balls and roll them down the street. But in Japan, that's like primetime TV. Everyone finds it funny.
Yeah, we could make all sorts of generalizations about the two cultures.
And America sucks.
Well, I guess the best way to show, it's so obvious that there's this link here, because look at American geek culture. Japanese culture and Japanese things figure very highly into many, many, many geeks' lives in America.
Yep. Mostly in the anime and video game departments. Not so much the role-playing game departments.
No, not so much.
No. But mostly the animes and the video games.
Yeah, but those are two of the pillars of geekery.
And also the live-action Asian cinemas.
Yes, which also seem to overlap heavily with the former two.
Yep. Okay.
Now, speaking of role-playing games, today we decided to depart a little bit from, reviewing serious hardcore German board games or serious hardcore video games.
You mean Nintendo video games?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, someday we should do a whole show on what the words Nintendo hard mean to people who were born in the 80s. But that's a separate day.
Mm-hmm.
Today, you want to introduce it?
All right. Today we are going to talk about the genre of role-playing games which are not so serious.
Now, these range from games like Paranoia that are funny, but yet also social commentary and can be played seriously, to games like Hall that were not only cannot be played, not only are the rules so utterly asinine that you cannot play them, but they were actually not meant to be played. They were sold as rule books that were to be read for entertainment alone.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes when you want to do some tabletop role-playing, you want to do something serious with the fantasy, or, you get a GURPS, or you get a D20 system
Or
game,
a Burning Wheel.
or a Call of Cthulhu, or a 7C, or an L5R.
You make real
or a White
characters.
Wolf.
You look into the backstories. There's a complex rule system that actually works through the story you're trying to tell. And as a group, you tell your story. And it's usually really good and serious and takes forever.
Yep. But sometimes, you get a group of people together, you want to do some role-playing, but you don't have time to sit around for hours making characters. It's late at night. You don't already have a campaign running with these people.
Yep.
And, you're not in the mood for something serious. Maybe you're in the mood to laugh a whole lot. You're being silly. You're getting drunk.
Yep. You got a heterogeneous group where maybe not everyone knows the same systems, or there are people who aren't comfortable making a D&D character on their own.
Maybe these people haven't role-played before. You got to introduce them to tabletop gaming. This is when you bust out the stupid games.
Now, you might be thinking, oh, they're just talking about Beer and Pretzels D&D. No, this is definitely one step below Beer and Pretzels D&D, because Beer and Pretzels D&D is very rules-heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Kobolds Ate My Baby.
Yeah, we're gonna go over a few examples of the ones that we've played. There are a lot more out there. We just don't know a lot of them.
Yeah, well, I've played Paranoia.
Yep.
And I've played Kobolds Ate My Baby.
Yep.
You have played Pokethulu.
I played Pokethulu.
And Scott Johnson and I have read Hall.
Mm-hmm.
I have never met a human being who has tried to play Hall.
I'm sure we'll find one.
If any of you out there have played Hall, you will get some sort of non-monetary...
All right. So before we go and talk about the some of the actual games themselves, let's talk about a few things that are common across the board in this genre of non-serious role-playing games.
Even though there are great exceptions to probably everything we're about to say.
There are. But in general, the rules of all these games are very simple.
Or very complex, but not really.
Yeah. Like, if they're complex, they're not actually complex. They seem complex, like they'll just make up crazy batshit, but playing the game isn't actually difficult or time consuming. It's just crazy to be silly. It's not actually crazy difficult,
Yeah, actual events in the game will usually come down to something like, roll a d6, oh, you catch on fire.
Exactly.
Or everyone points at someone, and whoever got pointed at the most dies.
Yep. These games are generally very, very simple to play, and someone who's never played a role-playing game before can pretty much pick it up, read the book in about... I don't think I've ever seen a book for any of these games that was meant to be played that takes, too long to read. I
never even looked at the book to Kobolds Ate My Baby.
Yeah, the book to Kobolds Ate My Baby. There's a hardcover one you can buy, but I have the original one here. At least I think it's the original one. It's just a little orange pamphlet, baby. It's smaller than a Passover Seder booklet, a Haggadah. If you're a Jew, you know what that is, and it's a small little book. It's basically a brochure, if you really want to get right down to it.
Now, another big thing about these games, that in many cases, they're designed so that the only person who actually needs to have even ever seen the rule book is the person running the game.
Yep.
Kobolds Ate My Baby, especially Paranoia. You can play Paranoia seriously where everyone knows their stuff and everyone makes a character. But most games of that are run where one guy says, I'm going to run a game of Paranoia. 5 other people say, what's Paranoia? And then the first guy says, sit your ass down.
Yeah, that's one big thing about it, is you're playing D&D, a D20 system game. Anyone who's playing kind of needs to know how to play. They have to know what spells they have available, or else how do they know that they can cast them? They have to know what actions are available for them to take. They have to know when they roll a D20, what numbers should they add to it so they report the correct number to the DM.
Yep, or the exact opposite, which is just as tedious. Everyone has to role play really, really well and play a really story-driven game that takes a lot out of you mentally.
Mm-hmm. In these sorts of games, The player doesn't have to know anything. The DM will command them to roll dice and then tell them what happens as a result. And players basically just say whatever they want to do, and something works out because it's lighthearted and no one cares.
Another big hallmark of these games is that they are often not directly competitive, but definitely there is some form of competition either among the players or the situation where it is the dungeon master versus the players, as opposed to it is the dungeon master facilitating role-playing for the players.
Yes, it is always quite amusing to, where the DM can control, many, many silly things and create lots of humorous situations which the players must fight. It really depends, but yeah.
Yeah, when there's 4 kobolds and 1 baby, you can bet that one of those PCs is going to get killed.
Yeah, that is the chief hallmark of this genre of game is frequent and repeated player death.
And not along the line, in most role-playing systems, death is this big deal. My character died.
Yeah,
and then
there are people who
ramifications.
consider dying in D&D to be losing, for people who think you can win and lose at D&D.
Yeah, we've known some people over the years who couldn't deal with a character dying.
Yeah.
But then there are people, they just take it really seriously. A character dies and they treat it like a character in an anime they've been watching for 2 years died, or a relative died in some cases.
Yeah. But in these games, you pretty much die and respawn, or die and make a new character
Or
all the time.
In fact, in many cases, silliness is often encouraged to the point that a character will put themselves in a situation knowing that they're going to die, expecting some sort of hilarity to ensue.
Yes, that is all.
These games are games where characters will often die on purpose.
Yep. They'll die for great justice and for the great humor of everyone else. All right, let's start talking about Kobolds Ate My Baby, which has a tagline of the beer and pretzels role-playing game. They're saying the as if it's the only one.
Yeah.
But
No, I think the beer and pretzels is Hackmaster.
it could be. It could be.
Even though Hackmaster, when I read it, I actually thought it was fake and that no one played it. And the fact that people play it really frightens me a little bit.
Yeah. But anyway, Kobolds Ate My Baby is really simple. You make a kobold, which has 6 stats: strength, dex, agility, speed, comm, I forget what comm is, combat, and intelligence.
Now, it's a lot like D&D at first in that, you have these stats and you roll them up and you play. The difference is that the kobolds, the way you generate them, are weak as shit.
Yeah, they're basically nothing. You roll a bunch of random stats for your kobold, but really...
Like, if it were D&D, imagine if you were a character who has 1 hit point and has a rusty dagger that can do 0d4 damage.
Yeah. Every kobold has 4 skills, and then by default, which is climb, hide, cook, and tumble. I got hiccups. And then they get 2 more random ones, I think. You have traits. Every kobold has the trait of bark like a kobold and heightened sense of smell, but then they get another random trait. And they have bogeys, which are sort of like negative traits. And every kobold has fearless and tastes like chicken, because kobolds taste like chicken. And they get a random bogey, I guess. And you get weapons and armor and equipment and magic and all that kind of good stuff. Now,
the basic premise of the game is that you, as the PCs, are all kobolds.
Yep.
You want to eat babies.
Well, you don't want to eat babies. You want to get babies for the king kobold to eat at the ball or something like that.
Yeah, well, you have to
at his party. He is having a party and he wants to have it tomorrow. You need babies, big fat tasty human babies.
So your goal is to bust into this village full of humans with big swords and pointy bits
and dogs,
guard dogs, and
babies.
Fucking hate guard dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got to get the babies and get them out.
Now, basically, if a human sees you, your options are basically die or die in a funny way.
Or don't die, but then die afterwards. Delay death is another option.
Yeah, and wasn't there some sort of system of points where whoever brings back the most babies wins and all sorts of weird stuff?
Yeah, there's combat between the DM, who is called the mayor of the town, because he controls the townsfolk and such, to prevent the kobolds from getting enough babies. There's also competition between the kobolds to get more babies than each other and all that sort of stuff. And let's see, the default map has, what is this, 19 squares, and each square is a 5x5 grid of spots to stand on. And then in the back of the book, there is flavor text for all the different squares to tell you what's there.
You know what? That's really another hallmark of games like that. In a normal game, the DM creates this vast world for you, and he describes everything, and you really get in the mood. This is the kind of game where the players will say, all right, I go to the village. Give me some flavor text.
Yep, exactly. And the flavor text is all there, and it's really, you don't have to be a good DM to run one of these things, because generally the book is all you need. And that is a problem sometimes, because you're relying on the humor of the author of the book to make this an enjoyable experience. And once you've, used all of that stuff with the same group of people, it's not going to be funny again. I mean,
we played Kobolds Ate My Baby 1.5 times.
Yeah, I mean, if you play Kobolds Eat My Baby with your friends, and then it's not going to be fun to play it again. Unless you make a new map or you come up with new jokes, But the point is, the game's fun because some really funny guy wrote the game. Who did write this game? Landis and O'Neill of the 9th Level Games. All right.
Now, the other fun, say, you have 8 friends, and 4 of you have played Kobolds Ate My Baby a bunch of times. And then you play it with you 4, and then with these 4 newbies who have never seen the game before.
Then it's going to be fun.
As long as there's one person who has never played whatever game it is always
But it's got to be a
hilarious.
good person. If it's a schmuck who's not into it, then it's not going to work. But
I mean, we played this game with Stinky Rob, and despite that, it was great fun.
Yep. Another good idea is to, you play it, you put it on the shelf, and then a few years, when everyone's forgotten it, you whip it out again and have the fun again.
I gotta say, I'm kind of in the mood to play Kobolds Ate My Baby.
I am also kind of in the mood. The other thing is, everyone really has to get into it and be silly. If the people aren't acting silly, if they're kind of tired and bored, don't waste your time, because you're just going to use up all the well-written humor in the book, and it's going to go to waste. You've got to time it just right.
Yep. It's a great game if you're in college to play on like a Saturday night.
Yep. Perfect. With beer and pretzels.
Yes.
Many beer and pretzels. I mean, just to give you an idea of something in this game, kobolds have magic, right? And basically, whenever they cast a spell, and all the spells are hilarious and result in hilarious effects, but if you cast a spell, you die. You check off a box on your horrible kobold horrible death record. In the bottom right of your character sheet, there's this little grid of squares called the Kobold Horrible Death Record. And whenever you die, you just kind of check off a box.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
Now, a much more serious game in some ways is Paranoia.
Paranoia actually has a very large, a book. It's the same size as the D20, Dungeons & Dragons Player's Handbook. However, the first section of the book, I'd say the part that every player has to read, is maybe 75 pages long.
Yeah.
And the rest of the book is for the GM.
Now, you can play Paranoia very seriously, because Paranoia is a game that is basically set in a 1984, Brazil kind of dystopian Big Brother future.
I lied. It was 48 pages for the players to read.
Huh?
Yeah.
Imagine the most, North Korea times a million. The most horridly oppressive 1984 world you can imagine, where this computer, this all-powerful computer, controls everything, and you live in this super, super terrible world. And there are people who play this game seriously, or who play this game straight up, and that is not what we're going to talk about right now.
No, we are going to talk about the way we play Paranoia, which is for awesome. See, the world of Paranoia is set up sort of like, I don't know, I can't really compare it to anything, like Paranoia.
Yeah.
There are colors for everything, and the lowest of low colors, I think, is orange.
Ultraviolet.
No,
ultraviolet's the highest.
is
Infrared.
the worst.
Infrared.
No, I think orange is even lower than infrared.
No, it's not. It starts at infrared. 80% of the citizens are infrared. They are drugged all the time. They're the menial proletariat. Then it is red. Then it is orange. It follows in Roy G. Biv fashion. I can't believe you.
I don't really remember. But anyway.
Of course, you actually hadn't heard of Paranoia until Luke ran that game.
Yeah, that's right. And I got the book, but I haven't read a single word of it yet.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here with it right now. But anyway, ultraviolet is the highest setting.
Yeah, see, the thing is, I had known about Paranoia for a long, long time, and I thought it was awesome. Mostly because I'd gone to a lot of gaming conventions when I was very young before I went to college.
Mm-hmm.
And I always met people who would talk about this game, Paranoia. And I'd always hear jokes like, the computer is our friend. And I started understanding all this funniness about this game that I'd never played. And it wasn't until college when our friend Luke ran a game of Paranoia that I actually played it.
Yep. Now, the colors are rankings. And basically, if you're a rank, you have access to everything that is your rank and below, as makes sense.
You are also immune to laser blast from standard issue guns from anyone who has a rank lower than you.
Yeah, so let's say I'm orange and Rim is red. Rim can touch red things. He can also touch infrared things. If he touches an orange thing, he is very likely to die.
Unless no one sees.
Of course, the computer is watching, and you wouldn't disobey the computer because touching an orange thing when you're red is disobeying the computer.
Well, yes, the computer is my friend, and I am a happy citizen.
There you are.
Are you a happy communist?
Oh. But
now, but the basic, I'm not going to go into the great detail here, and I might be a little off on the exact details too, because it's been a while. But the premise of the world is that people built a supercomputer to run society and control the nukes. And there was a huge shelter underground to save people in the event of nuclear war. The computer's instructions were protect the people forever. There are communists out there. The communists want to destroy your people.
Mm-hmm.
Now the computer sits there, all right, fine, I will protect everyone. And then it realizes that logically, it has to protect the people forever. And there are communists out there. They might attack. Therefore, given infinite time, they will attack. Therefore, I have to nuke everyone right now.
And it did.
And then the computer is the only power in the world, so it now controls the entirety of society in the Alpha Complex, which is where you live.
Yep. Now, back to the colors. You have the ultraviolet people. I don't know. I just lost where I was going completely.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about the mechanics of the game very much. And in fact, I don't want to talk a lot about how Paranoia works for one main reason. It seems that Paranoia, the best way to experience this game, is to not know anything about it and have one person who knows everything about it run a game for you.
I guess that is sort of true.
Because Paranoia, at least one of the great joys of the game is learning about the world, discovering how this fucked up world works. I mean, I'll ruin one tiny thing that a lot of people will play this game, and this is how Luke ran the game for us, semi-LARP style, where you're sitting around a table, and there's all these things on the table, and those things are part of the game. You say you got to get instructions from the computers. You go to a kiosk, and you hit the button, and the instructions come out. So Luke, being the computer, what he did is the instructions were written on a piece of paper. So he takes his hand in front of me, and he starts rolling the piece of paper out like it's a kiosk. I go to grab it, and he starts rolling it back in because the computer broke. And I go, shit, and I try to grab it from him, and it rips. And now I have half a piece of paper, and it says, the other half of a number. Now what?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And as you'll learn how the game works by dying a lot. And I'd say that is probably the greatest joy of this game, is learning how the game works and playing it for the first time with a bunch of people who have never played before.
Yeah. Another thing you have to remember in this game is if you want to play it correctly, everyone has a six-pack. A six-pack of beverages.
Some sort of caffeinated beverage, usually.
Usually. Something that's going to make you pee. That's the idea. Something that's going to make you have to get up and go to the bathroom and leave the game. Because what happens is every time you die, you open up one item in your six-pack. If you don't have anything left in your six-pack, you're done. Go home.
Because in the game, everyone is a clone. And anytime a clone is made, there's a clone template. And one clone will be recreated up to 6 times.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you're walking around outside, and your friend accuses you of being a communist, which you have to be wearing red, so you're kind of fucked at this point. So the computer sends a tactical nuke and kills you.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of the party is like, all right, great. And then 2 minutes later, the computer launches a capsule out with another clone of you, and the clone walks out and goes, you bastards, and then you keep going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and basically, when you die, you open up one of the beverages in your six-pack in real life, and you start drinking it. And when you finish drinking it, that's when you come back into the game. So if you want to get back in the game real quick, you'll chug real fast. But if you want to, take your time, you'll just sip and wait for the right moment to finish off that last drop.
Now, the game is called Paranoia because, one, you are afraid that the computer is going to see you do something bad and kill you. You are afraid...
And if the game is run properly, it's almost impossible to not do something bad. I mean, the computer will give you instructions, and you must obey the computer or else you'll die. But in order to execute those instructions, you'll have to do all sorts of other things, which disobey the computer.
Now, in addition... Usually the game is run wherein every one of the PCs has an ulterior motive. I mean, you'll be given a mission. You are basically, in most Paranoia games, a troubleshooter, meaning you are sent out to find trouble and shoot it.
Uh-huh.
And as a result, you're out there and you have your mission from the computer. But in addition, a lot of people like to say that the Alpha Complex is a world where the computer protects everyone from the communists, yet everyone is secretly a communist.
Mm-hmm.
So every character will be given an ulterior mission, or they're a member of a secret cult or a secret society, or they're actually a communist, or they're a mutant or something.
Mm.
So like one character's mission is to kill this other character, but they can't just kill the other character outright, because then they'll be killed.
And the guy will come back 6 times, and you come back 6 times. So you can't just shoot him with a laser. You got to set up situations to force the other guy, to do something he's not supposed to do or force him to disobey the computer. It's all about, contradictory goals and being forced into difficult situations.
Yeah, like the simple ones, you walk up to someone and you say, "Are you a happy communist?"
Mm-hmm.
And someone says, "What? No." And then you say, "You're not happy?" No. So then you're a communist. You point your finger and then the computer kills them.
Exactly.
Things like that.
Mm-hmm. That one gets a little old, though.
Well, yeah, the thing is, early on, I don't want to ruin, because one thing about Paranoia, and I've actually learned a lot of these secrets from, playing in the game once and listening to other people talk, but there are a lot of things that the runner of the game is encouraged to do in order to make the game awesome. And the thing is, these things will only work once on a given person, because then, if they ever play Paranoia again, they'll know, oh, he's just doing the blah, blah, blah trick.
Yep.
But the one I think I can
That
say...
is why the first 48 pages of the Paranoia rules book are infrared, and the GM section, which is the entire rest of the book, is ultraviolet.
Now, the one I'll ruin, just to give you an example of how it works, this is a really basic one, is put the players in a dark room early on.
Yep.
You basically put the players in a situation where they can get all that, oh my god, I really want to kill someone, out of their system. So you put them in a situation where the computer's not watching, and it is guaranteed that within a minute, probably everyone is going to die.
So they don't
without any DM intervention. They're just going to all kill each other.
Yeah. Now you can see why this is awesome, because check it out. Everyone wants to just escape the computer because the computer will kill them if they do certain things. So as soon as they escape the computer, what do? All do? They all die.
And then... basically, DM, you all die, and you can say something like, "What did you learn?"
Mm-hmm.
And then the game continues. Yep. And there are a lot of tricks like this that make the game so awesome for someone who's never played it before.
Yeah. I guess the problem is if you want to run a campaign, it gets silly. But it's great for one shot. It takes a few hours, though. It's not like a quick thing. Like Kobolds Ate My Baby, you can play in like maybe a couple hours, maybe even 1 hour. It's pretty short. But Paranoia, you can get a whole night of action with one game of Paranoia.
Easily.
Very easily. If it's run well and people don't die too often. I mean, you got to die a lot for Paranoia to be awesome, but the idea is to have a lot of players. That way, someone is always dying, but it takes a very long time, hours, for people to actually be eliminated from the game entirely, unless someone is incredibly stupid, and then they must die right away.
The best Paranoia game seems to be where it ends, where maybe 2 of the original 8 or 10 players are still alive, because the people who are dead, it is still hilarious to watch what is going on, even if you are out of the game.
Even if you didn't start in the game, if you're just a passerby and you see some people playing Paranoia, sit down and watch, because if they're doing a good job, it's going to be hilarious.
Now, if you ever go to a gaming con, now I don't even mean like UberCon, I mean like an old school pay for slots gaming con. Almost every one of them, in fact, every one I've ever been to, had a live-action Paranoia that was going on continuously throughout the convention.
Yep.
Which, it would involve... I couldn't even go on to the hilarity. But don't think that Paranoia ends once you've played it a couple times and you've learned all the tricks. Because then you can play the next stage of Paranoia, which is playing a game where everyone knows what's going on. And then it's either a battle of wits between all the players, which can be really cool, or it's a semi-serious or just much more streamlined game, and it's still really fun and a good one-off. If you're a nut, you can continue to the somewhat serious Paranoia gaming, where you play campaigns, and that's a whole different topic.
Yeah, and even if you don't plan on playing Paranoia ever, hell, even if you don't plan on playing Kobolds Eat My Baby or any of the other games, I mean, we're going to talk about Pokethulu quickly. Get the books and read them, because they're hilarious to read. I mean,
however, if you ever plan to play Paranoia, don't read the back of the Paranoia book.
Unless you're going to be running the game.
Yeah, but try to find someone else to run you a game first. Otherwise, you'll never get to experience that joy of having the computer totally fuck you in a way you never anticipated.
Yep, exactly. And, Rim talked before about how games like Hall, it's not meant to be played. You just read the book for humor, and the book happens to be an RPG rule book that is humorous. The other games like Paranoia are also, RPG rule books that are humorous, but they can be played. It's humorous to just read it, but also playing it is good. Whereas Hall, humorous to read, don't play.
Now, Pokethulu we'll talk about briefly. I think I was on a date or something, but I wasn't around when everyone else played Pokethulu. I think it was you and Pete and maybe Frank.
I don't remember.
I know it was you and Pete, at least.
I was a little pirate kid with a little pirate boat and a little pirate Pokemon.
I remember that you guys explained how the game went and that you had met a little girl and immediately killed her.
Yep, something like that.
It is basically Pokemon plus Cthulhu.
Yes, it is. You are playing an RPG that's incredibly simple. I think it was like 4 small stats, and I forget what dice you use because I don't have the rule book, but I don't know what happened to that rule book that we had. It's a cheap game. You can buy it.
It's like $5 or $6. I might just buy it again.
Yeah. I mean, I think I might buy the better version of Kobolds Ate My Baby also. But it's, you're a trainer. You have some trainer stats, but you can't really do much. Everything you do is your Pokethulu, which is a Pokemon for all intents and purposes. Only it's a very macabre Pokemon.
Yeah, we're talking dark with tentacles and killing.
Normally Pokemon have or traits like fiery or, four-legged or flying. Pokethulu have those traits too, but they also have other traits like squamous and tentacled and other such things.
Squamous.
Yes, squamous Pokemon, Pokethulus. So, you're just playing a fun game in whatever kind of, Pokemon trainer combat world you want. Only all the Pokemon are Lovecraftian and kind of freaky. And
of
you
course,
end up making a lot of jokes about tentacles and all that sort of stuff. And
now, if you haven't ever read the works of H.P. Lovecraft and the Cthulhu mythos, one, why are you listening to Geeknights? Go read those books now.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, if you've never eaten bread, why have you not read?
Actually, we should do a show on H.P. Lovecraft.
Write that down, someone.
Yes,
I re-stickied the thread because you guys complained.
Well, the reason I unstickied it is
because there were just too many sticky threads.
Yeah, that and because it got a post pretty much every day because we always talk about something. But then the forums exploded last weekend and pushed that off the front page.
Yep, so I re-stickied it. Be joyous. Anyway.
Yeah, Pokethulu is just silly and fun, and H.P. Lovecraft is great. Now, we're not going to talk much about HAL. HAL stands for Human Occupied Landfill. I learned about it because I read a review about it in Dragon Magazine, and it sounded so hilarious.
Are you sure it's pronounced Hall and not Hole?
I've heard it HAL.
I don't know. Who cares?
Some scary old gamer at Michigan said HAL.
Okay.
Because he made a joke about the title of the chapter on combat in the game.
All right.
And the funny thing is that our friend Scott Johnson, I've never met anyone else other than Scott and the scary old guy who really knew about HAL. So if any of you have ever read it, let me know, because that's cool. And if you haven't read it and you see it for cheap, I'd recommend picking it up because it's kind of funny.
Yeah. I'm sure there are lots of other games in this very important and very revered genre of RPGs, but I don't really know any of them. But I'm sure if you look on Google and the internet, you'll find a whole mess of them. I mean, I've seen some in the store. What was there's like, I try to remember that one I saw on the shelf. What was it?
I don't think you're going to remember. If I had a thought bird, I'd play it.
Yeah. There were some involving like mermaid sluts and another one involving like cows of some sort.
Well, there's also this whole subgenre of one-off party LARPs. I forget what it was called, but there's one, the mermaid thing you said reminded me, where if you have a pool party, there's this LARP where everyone's a fish.
Oh, it's like the shrimp whatever or something?
I forget what it's called, but
Yeah.
everyone gets a character with motives, and there's barely any rules. Like, you paper, rock, scissors for anything, and there isn't even much. And it's just this silly LARP that you can play while you happen to be in a pool for a few hours.
Yeah, it's like it's like a one-off fun time party in a box.
I guess in closing, these games are absolutely fantastic. And if you really like role-playing, but you're not around people to role-play regularly anymore, but you see each other like once a month or once a year, that's when to bust these things out.
Yeah, or if you're at a party and, people are drunk but not vomit drunk, or
Little tipsy.
people are they're kind of bored. There's nothing really happening at the party. Everyone's just kind of sitting around looking around. This is what you want to
looking around.
Exactly. I mean, sometimes you can bust out something like Apples to Apples, but that can only support so many people reasonably.
Yeah, plus that we can do a whole separate episode, again, all these other episodes, on party games, which are somewhat distinct from this.
Yes, but you can bust one of these types of things out, and you'll create a good time out of nothing easily. Especially if you got a bunch of nubs, especially non-gaming nubs.
Well, anyway, to close out, tune in tomorrow, where once again we won't have news or thing of the day because we're going to finish our coverage of Otakon 2006, including, among other things, our long rant that I barely remember because it was very late when we recorded the most of it, about panels at cons and how we're not too happy with them anymore.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to be agreeing with us, so...
And I'm going to do everything I can with my staffly powers at the cons I have any influence over to try to rectify this.
Yeah, there has to be a way. The thing is okay. We'll let it be for tomorrow.
Yes. So in closing, trust the computer. The computer is your friend.
Obey.
Put on those sunglasses.
No.
And that was Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for our opening theme.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com. If you like our podcasts, you'll love our forums. Make sure you visit them. You can send your email feedback to geeknights@gmail.com. And if you want, you can leave us a voicemail at 206-333-1537.
Geeknights airs every weeknight, Monday through Thursday.
Geeknights is recorded with absolutely no studio and no audience. But unlike those other talk shows, it's actually recorded at night.